Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Go Deep with Kat and Sara. Today we have a starting topic. I don't know if it's going to be the ending topic. However, we were talking about when things in life look really urgent. And you want to, your mind starts to get faster and faster and faster, and you feel like, I have to solve this. I have to figure it out, and I have to figure it out now. And what does that mean? And is there a different way?
Yeah. Happens to all of us. What do you see about it, Sarah Joy?
Well, I used to interpret the feeling of urgency as that I had to fix a problem. And there's something happening that I have to fix. And the sooner the better. And so then I would dig down into the details of something. Maybe if I can just get a handle on the numbers, or it does depend on what the topic is. Or if I was, I remember being angry at my husband, and we got to fix this right now. It feels very in my face. And so we can't go to bed if we don't yell at each other for a while, or fix it now. So I used to think that urgency feeling meant that something had to be fixed now. And I've come to see that we only ever get that urgent feeling if we're caught up in our thinking. And when we come back to the present moment, very often I would be sitting by myself. Maybe a decision might need to be made, maybe not. But if I slow down, it never was as urgent as it seemingly felt. And whatever there was to do just felt more like a calm knowing, or a calm
Yeah.
determination, maybe. Like, okay, this is what we'll do.
Yeah. The feeling of urgency is when I am using the operating system called thought, right?
Yeah.
Versus the operating system of universal intelligence, wisdom, which never speaks rapidly or gives a sense of, you got to do this now, right? So to me the contrast is just what's operating, that urgent, fast, thinky versus the peaceful, quiet, knowing, loving, right now. Like, I've also noticed wisdom doesn't, this innate intuitive knowing that we have, it doesn't really project out into the future that I see. It and it doesn't go to the past. You should have. It is so, like you were kind of saying, it's like real time right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something to be said, to be done, an action to take? Is it? And that's, and the experience of life, we're is is both. I mean, and it's not saying that the intellectual brain doesn't have um, a place in gathering information, you know, looking at a spreadsheet, learning about something that helps a decision be made. But it isn't that urgency is the big key for me. The felt sense in the body of a racing heart or a knot in my stomach, like, okay, right there. That's the ding, ding, ding. I think we've talked about the check engine light that says, okay, you know, that's probably not where the best solution or action or non-action to be taken is going to be found. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. 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 I've learned anytime I feel urgency, it's a lie.
It's a lie.
Lie. And yeah, and it feels urgent and important. And as soon as I slow down for a minute and get a little perspective and a little space, and you just kind of almost stepping back, go, okay,
Yep. Yep.
okay, maybe, with curiosity or like what really matters here,
I'm
then
glad you said that because before we hit record, we were talking, you brought that up.
yeah,
Like, does it really even matter?
yeah.
This thing that looks so urgent that needs our attention, our figuring out, our jumping in and controlling, or so we think that we even have control.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was just now thinking back to a couple sort of more situations I've been in my life where people might say, no, but that was urgent. That car accident was urgent, or that time where your brother almost died was urgent. In the moment when I was present now, or then, you know what I mean? In the real time then, when I was taking action at what needed to be done in that moment, it was just this calm spaciousness. And it felt like I had all the time in the world. And it was okay. I guess I'll call 911. Okay. I'm going to go to the other car and see if they need help, if they're injured. Okay. And it was sort of step by step. And and I gave my brother rescue breathing once and brought him back. And he'd gone through blue and purple and gray, and he'd been not breathing for a long time when he was about 2, 3 years old. And it felt like slow motion, and there was so much time. And I remember hearing the steps in my head of, get an airway, tilt his head, do this, do this. And those would be situations where people might point to and say, yeah, but that's urgent. But the feeling in the moment was not. And that is our real time responsive. We're built to live in the moment. And whenever I actually feel urgency, I know it's not true.
It's that example, Sarah Joy, is one that I think almost everybody has had an experience of a um,
Yeah.
critical, potentially life-threatening situation. So many people and when I share that, like, you just thought kind of fades to the background or disappears. And that mode of operation, right, of just this alignment with that which really is the truth of who we are, is comes to the forefront of our attention, and everything is slow and peaceful, and one step, the next step, like what to do is so accessible. And I mean, and yet, maybe your heart is racing a little bit, and maybe there's maybe fast action, but that kind of that wide open space of just awareness where all the information can come in and it gets processed. It's beautiful. And um, I don't know where else somebody might have experienced it in sports, maybe like in the zone
Yeah.
where I remember, times when I've been playing tennis and the ball's coming to me and it just looks like this huge hamburger. Like right or whatever. Like instead of this, like I'm looking like, oh man, and I almost feel like my body is just like instead of like running and you know. So where I've had the opposite experience on the tennis court, like, oh my God, I'm losing. Like, what do I got to do? And you feel your body tighten up and your mind is racing about, this strategy and that strategy, where instead, more efficient, effective, enjoyable play can occur if you can just get into the zone. Is that, I think that's another example that maybe people can relate to. 'Cause you
Yeah.
can you can be engaged in life or sports with both, and, nothing I mean, nothing wrong, nothing has to be fixed, nothing that's just like, as humans, we're gonna do that, right? We're gonna
Yeah.
believe the lie of thought. We're gonna believe that we are this separate identity that has gotta work this thing out, and instead, we are We are the awareness. We are the pure, unconditional love. We are this vast, universal intelligence in action.
Yeah. I think the huge thing that changes everything is knowing you are that, knowing that at our core, that when we're designed to return and rest in that and be the love of the universe and the peace, and we are pure unlimited energy. So then when we are feeling urgent, we notice it. And that's the thing that changes everything. You notice it and you go, oh, I know that's not true, even though it feels true. I know that that urgent thing is not me. Okay. And we go back. If we don't hold ourselves in the trying to fix it, we naturally go back to who we are. And it's a completely, literally just noticing and knowing who you are changes everything. Everything. Right now, my daughter, she's almost 13. She's going, she doesn't believe me because I'm her mother, but, and I, and I haven't really um, had opportunity to talk with her much about it, but she's an excellent artist. And she started putting pressure on herself. So rather than flowing in her natural real time art like you would in sports, she says, Mommy, I pick up a pen and I feel miserable. And rather than just saying, well, I've got thoughts of pressure, because she had got to a point of excellence with her art where now she became unhappy because it wasn't always as good as she wanted. And
Mm.
and it none of it's all made up. It's that she's interpreting the negative feeling as real. And she says, oh, Mommy, that means I'm losing my passion for art. And I'm thinking, no, it doesn't mean that. It just means you're busy in your head because you're trying to get it right. And if so, we've left it for a while, and I've noticed that she's every now and then when nobody's looking, she'll pick up and draw things just for herself. And um, but the whole thing is what do we make of the negative feeling? Do we believe it, or do we know that, oh, it's just something I've made up in my thoughts?
Yeah. Well, negative, positive, like feelings are changing,
Yeah.
experience is constantly changing. It's just life is lifing, and who we really are, like what you said, like what really is the key to ending suffering, right? Not to say that we're not going to have challenges and and problems and you know uncomfortable feelings, but we don't have to suffer because of it when we know and can live more frequently in that knowledge of who and what we actually are. And feelings are, they come and they go, they're constantly changing. So the truth of who we are never changes, that we're aware of all of it. And so even and good feelings, bad feelings, like that's thought also. That's a label. Like who says, because this person's bad feeling is that person's good feeling.
Yeah. It's hard to talk about things without without having a you know what I mean? Without saying something's good or bad or positive or negative or
Well,
more
because
expensive or attractive.
that's what we've been conditioned to.
Yeah.
That's how we've been conditioned to see the world.
Yeah.
And so, and we're doing our best to talk about this using language, and language can't, it's ineffable,
Yeah.
and it's something that's known, and we're just doing our best to try to point to it, but it's hard to speak about. But everybody knows what we're talking about because it's who you are.
Yeah.
And we have to talk. I mean, we're making a podcast, Sarah Joy. We can't just sit here and just be.
Sure we can.
We could, right? And we certainly could. We could do an episode where we're like, okay, here goes 20 minutes of pure love, unconditional love, universal intelligence, awareness, who I am, and no words.
I like what you said about everyone knows this.
I do.
And I was thinking on Saturday, just this last 2 days ago, I did a retreat day and we were talking about who we are and our true self. And I forget the question I'd asked people, but it was everybody knew of a time when they felt calm, when they had a calm knowingness feeling. Might have been a while since they had felt it, but everyone knew themselves as that. They knew what I was talking about. And they also, everybody very well knew the feeling of overthinking and what it feels like in their bodies and how their body tightens up and people sort of like scrunchy faces. And yeah, it's so simple. If you know the feeling of the scrunchy face and you know the feeling of who you are, you're not the scrunchy face.
And we have the awareness that feeling arises in the body, but
Yeah.
it's a great pointer to, it's uncomfortable. It isn't the truth of who we are. And yeah, this isn't anything, what we're talking about isn't anything that's just me and you, or, anything special. Like it is everyone, and we all are. I mean, there's not even, it's not an individual separate thing. It's the totality of everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had started with urgency feeling and what it means because I see a lot of where the only reason people are not more centered, grounded, peaceful in their day-to-day life is because they believe the urgency and
Yeah.
They just misunderstand what it's indicating.
Yeah. Well, I'll raise my hand.
Me too. And it just, it just means, hey, you're off. Slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've had the feeling quite recently of urgency. So, not to imply to any of our listeners that urgency doesn't happen over here, because it does. And but I know what it means.
Well, and you want it to happen because if we didn't notice it or feel it, we would be off in the woods of, like if it's as an indicator, it indicates you want to feel it sooner rather than later. You don't want to miss that, or you're going off-roading.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it all of that's part of all of life, what we came to experience.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I needed this today for sure. So
Awesome.
thank you, Sarah Joy, for
Well, thank you. And I'm sure there's many others who are feeling that they needed it as well.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, we will hope you all join us next time for whatever we happen to talk about then. Bye.
Bye.